Now, I'm going to be talking about the Unit 11 review packet. We're going to answer some questions that will help prepare us for the test based on statistics. First question has us, or as we're on page 20, I think I might have already said it. I believe we're on page 28. Just double check that. Yes, 28. 28 or thereabouts. All right. So what we have here is a group of data called test scores. We have a 93, 88, 94, 93, 85, 97, and a 52. It says, which statistical question was most likely used to gather the data? Question A was, how many tests were given during the past week? Well, the thing says test scores, so I don't think it was that. What was the typical science test score? I like that word typical. I'm going to keep that one. What did I get on the test? Well, that's only one test score, so it's not going to be that. And then what did Mr. Levering get on his Calculus 3 final exam in 2006? Well, it's not that one either because that's only one test score, so it couldn't be that. So I'm going with B. What was the typical science test score? I'm going to go with that. Which measure of center would you use to find for this? Would you find for this data set? Well, looking at the numbers, 52 is definitely an outlier. That's what you're looking for when you're trying to answer that question. So we would use the median. And why would we use the median? Because there is an outlier. Okay. There is an outlier. Okay. All right. Then it says find the measure of center. So we're actually going to find the median right here. And when you find the median, what's key is that we're going to line these numbers up in order from least to greatest. So let's start with the 52 there. And then that one's done. 85 is the next one. So notice I'm crossing them out to make sure I've counted them all. 88 is the next. Yes. 2 93s. 93. 93. 2 93s. 94 and 97. Okay, now we have 7 data points. And because we have an odd number, that means we're going to have one in the middle. So I'm going to find the one number that goes in the middle, and that is going to be 93. That's the only one left. That's the middle number. That's the median, is 93. Okay, that's the measure of the center. That's about the center of the data. 3 or more, 3 or less. If we found the mean, that 52 would pull the mean down, which is why we found the median. All right, it says, which population would you ask to collect the data for the following question? What is the average number of hours of sleep a student at the middle school gets each night? All right, a student at the middle school. A is 6th grade students. Nope, because that's just one group of middle schoolers. 6th to 8th grade students and teachers. That seems good, but it's only asking about students, so we wouldn't ask teachers. 6th to 8th grade students, I'm going to leave that one. I think that one's good. Or all base teachers and satellite teachers. If the question was asking about teachers, that might be it, but I'm going to go with C because it's just the students. It's just the students we're asking. All right, let's go on to page 29, I think. Whatever the next page is, that's where we're going to go. So page 29. All right, we're going to make a line plot. So you can kind of go ahead of me if you know what you're doing. You can go make that line plot. Let's do it. So number of projects, we have the least is 0, and we're going to go all the way up to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so we're going to do this carefully. We want to make sure we count all the data. We're going to make a little tally table right here. All right, and we're going to make sure we count each one once. All right, this number of activities. I wish there was a question that went with this because I'm not sure what this means, number of activities, but perhaps if I could guess, it may be the number of activities that students did over a weekend, maybe. I'm not 100% sure about that, but that could be it. Sounds right to me. All right, so 0 is going to be there twice. We have 5 ones, so I'm going to make a tally so far. We have a 3, another 2, and a 1. So just check with me. I have 2 zeros. I'm just going to put these here. 2 zeros, 6 ones, 4 2s, 3 3s, and a 4. All right. Next step, next step is I'm going to number the number line. So it's going to be 0 through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's okay if we have an extra one here. We can just leave that. That's no big deal. All right, now we're going to put our data points here. There's 2 zeros, 6 ones, 6 ones, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 twos, 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 threes. Mine are a little crooked. I apologize for that. And 1 4. A couple things we need to do here is we need a title. And I'm going to, well, this is projects. See, I'm not sure what this is, but we'll put number of activities. Okay, so that's going to be number of activity. I wish we had more information, but it doesn't appear that we do. So there is our beautiful line plot. Well, what measure of center would we use? So to answer that question, we're going to look at the data. Are there any numbers here that are outliers, that are like really, really far from the other numbers? No. So because there are no outliers, we're going to use the mean. And why? Why are we using the mean? The reason is that there is no outlier. Nothing. All the data is really, really close together. All right, let's find the measure of center. Here we go. Let's find the mean. So to find the mean, we're going to add up all the data points. So there's 0 times 2. You're going to see why I put that in there in a second. 1 times 6 plus 2 times 4 plus 3 times 3 plus just a lonely old 4. And we're going to divide this whole thing by how many data points. Now, we're going to include the zeros. So even though they're 0, we still need to include those as data points. So when I count these up, I'm going to count the zeros as well. I have a special guest. I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm back. Now, what we have to do is we have to figure out how many data points we have. We have 2 zeros, 1, 2, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 2 plus 6 is 8, plus 4 is 12, plus 3 is 15, plus 1 is 16. So we're going to divide this whole thing by 16. So in a calculator, I'm going to add these up. And so it's 0 plus 1 plus 6, plus 2 times 4, that's 14, plus 3 times 3 is 9, which is 23, plus 4, which should be 27, divided by 16. So that is going to be how many total activities there were. I'm going to divide that all by 16 and see what we get. Should be somewhere around 1 or 2, because that seems like that's the middle of the data, but I could be wrong. Okay, 1.687. So I'm going to write 1.6. The 8 would round up. So if it's 1.187, that 8 would round up because the 7 tells us to round up. So it's going to be 1.69 activities. That's going to be the mean, which seems about the center of the data. If we had a question that, this is based on this number might make more sense, but we don't have a question at this point. So there's our mean. Determine the range of the data. Well, the range is the greatest, which is 4, minus the least. That's the range. Now, the range tells us, there'll be a question about this later, how spread out the data is. 4 minus 0 is 4. That means the data is pretty close together, because if the range was bigger, that means the data is more spread out. But these numbers are pretty close together, as you can see. Are there any outliers? No. How can you tell there's no outliers? All the numbers are close together. That's how you can tell. There are no numbers that are like extremely far away. All the numbers are close together. Okay. All right, that's the line plot. That's the line plot. Let's talk about a histogram now, I believe. Here we go. So we're going to page 30, and we're going to talk about a histogram on page 30. Here we go. All right, so again, we don't have a question here, but we do have some data related to books being read. Okay, so Looks like we have 15 data points. We're going to group those data points in our chart. Then we're going to make our histogram. So we have a 12, which is going to be in that range. We have a 1, which is going to be between 0 and 2. We have another 1. So I'm just going to tally these up and see how many data points we have for each interval. And that's going to be that. And then we'll be able to make our histogram. So what's nice is that, and this will be true on the test too, you have the intervals here. We're going to have to write them down here on the graph, on the histogram. But the test gave you the different intervals, which is nice because sometimes that can be difficult to determine what would be the best interval to use. 0, looks like 3 to 5 has nothing in there, and that's okay. That might mean that there's a gap. All right. So frequency, just check to make sure you have the same as me. I have 4, 0, 1, 3, and then 7. Okay, so to make this histogram, what's nice is they already have the title and the labels. We're going to label the intervals on the bottom of the graph, and then we have to figure out what we're going to count out by on the side for the frequency. Hopefully we can do ones, but hasn't been the case yet, I suppose. All right, can we count up by ones to get to 7? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. So we'll count up by ones here. Okay. If we had any higher number, we'd probably have to count up by 2s. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, then we're going to take our straight edge or ruler, and we're going to make our bars. So 0 to 2 is going to be going up to 4. So I'm going to make a straight line from that dash here going up to 4. And remember that the bars of the histogram need to be touching. There's nothing between 3 and 5, so we're going to leave that blank. 6 to 8 is only 1. So I'm going to make a bar here that's in that interval that only shows that one person. Whoop, that part of the bar is not very straight. Only one person read 6 to 8 books, and then 9 to 11 is 3 books. Whoop. It's harder to do. I wish I had a ruler, or could use a ruler, but okay. And then last but not least, 12 to 14, that had the highest frequency. That's going to be 7. That's going to go all the way up to the top. Whoop. Okay. So there's our lovely histogram. Now, one thing we like to do, just to show us the numbers more easily, is write the numbers above the bars. We've got 4 here, 0, 1, 4 again. Or I had 3. It looks like I had 3. I apologize. I went up too far. So hopefully you caught that as well. Went up too far there. There we go. That should be 3. And then 7. Okay. Which interval has the greatest number of data points? Well, looking at the histogram, the interval with the greatest number was 12 to 14. That had 7 data points. How many students read 9 or more books? Well, that would be 9 starts here. 9 or more would be 3 plus 7. It would be both those intervals. 3 plus 7 is 10 students. And then the last question on this page is asking us about the shape of the data. So clusters. So there is a cluster. Let's see. I would say if you put like between 12 and 14, that's fine. If you put 9 to 14, that's fine too. I'm going to put 9 to 14, I think. There's a cluster from 9 to 14. If you put 12 to 14, that's fine too. Okay, the gaps. Yes, there's a gap here. There is a gap at 3 to 5. That interval is a gap. Peaks. Yes, there is a peak. There is a peak at 12 to 14. Okay. So we have gaps, clusters, peaks, and that is the end of the histogram. There's one more page we got with a couple questions on it, then we'll be able to wrap it up. So let's look at the last page here, 31, I think. So it's asking, what measure of center would you use for this data? Well, what it's asking for is, would you find the mean or the median? Those are the measures of center. So you would find, or you would use, if you look at the data, are there any outliers? That's what we're looking for. There don't seem to be any outliers. You would use the mean. And the question is, why would you use the mean? Because there are no outliers. So that's what we're always looking for. If we're going to use the mean or median, we have to check to see if there are outliers. Because there are no outliers. All that data is really close together. All right, last two questions here. What is the range? Now the range, again, is the greatest minus the least. So the greatest is 4 minus the least, which is 0. 4 minus 0 is 4 pets, I guess. 4 pets is the range. That means the difference between the greatest number of pets and the least number of pets is 4 pets. Last question, what does the range tell you about the data? So what the range tells us, we talked about this earlier on a different page. The range tells us how spread out the data is, or how spread out the data is. So the closer that number is, the less the spread is. All right, so that's the review packet. The test is probably tomorrow or very soon. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.